Hey everyone, Dylan of Harmonic Design here with a new video. This time we're going to be building our own custom vanilla JavaScript slider. It's going to be just super lightweight, super small, super easy to use and intuitive, and it's just going to do what we need it to do and do it well. This should be a pretty fun project because for me, I'm probably going to end up using this and integrating this in my future projects. So any future website I build that I kind of need a slider, I'll probably end up using what we're going to build here today. So with that, let's jump in and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to open this up and I'm going to open it up in VS Code. Obviously, you can feel free to use whatever code editor you want. I'm running actually a brand new, I just completely reformatted my entire computer and I jumped the ship over to Zorin OS just because I felt like trying it out. So I haven't really, so I'm just using like the default basic color scheme here for VS Code. Let me actually zoom in here so you can see this better. How do you zoom in VS Code? Can you just do the, maybe you can just do the plus minus? Okay, cool, you can. Okay, there we go. So I'm just, well, I mean, it's not really what I'm looking for, but at least it's bigger for you and the recording good enough for me. So what we have here is we actually, let's actually go to the folder first. What I have here is I have a folder called images, which just has, I just chose 3 random images to use as like the slider backgrounds. We have an HTML file, a script file, and a style sheet file. And that's all we need. So the whole point of this is we're not going to be using jQuery or anything like that. We want this to be very simple and bare bones. I'm going to be adding in some basic customizations. For instance, we're going to have like navigation. So like, scroll left, scroll right to go to the previous or next slide. I'm going to probably integrate pagination, which are like those circles, those dots that show you, so like if you have 5 slides, there'll be 5 dots. You can click whatever dot you want to jump directly to that slide. We're going to have options for like, I don't know how long it takes to get to the next slide, stuff like that. So we're going to add in some customizations, but we're not going all in. Like we're not doing a rev slider replacement here. This is meant to be just really simple and clean. It's going to be good enough for the vast majority of your own projects. And yeah, as long as I don't screw this up and do something really bad or struggle with it, I'll probably end up uploading this to GitHub. And if I do, there'll be a link in the description. So to start off, we have our HTML file, which is just pretty basic. Yeah, we're just importing the style sheet really. We're importing our JavaScript sheet. We actually don't even need this class home. This is almost all we need here. We are going to need to add in another div, but we'll do that in a second. We have our script file, which is just empty at the moment. And we have our CSS style sheets. This is like kind of my basic boilerplate style sheet that I use for everything. We'll call this some HD slider, I guess. Sure, why not? So I've talked about this in previous videos, but you can essentially ignore most of this. Yeah, this is basically just me setting the body to like 100% height and width, just setting some basic parameters for the body, making sure images don't exceed 100% of the width. Pretty basic stuff. But this here won't be included in like the final build. We're gonna want to keep it really clean and simple. Actually, you know what? Let's get rid of it right now. Let's get rid of it right now. Make it so that we're only using the style sheets for the slider, and any other styles like font sizes, colors will just be inherited by your own site. So I guess the first thing we need to do is we need to start our JavaScript file. So we'll call what will we call this? We'll say constants. What should we call this? HDS, I guess. Sure. So here I'm just basically creating a function and I'm storing it inside a constant variable HDS for harmonic design slider. Our function is going to take 2 parameters. It's going to take an element and it'll take some options. So you know what? Let's actually set this as null. So element will be null by default and options will just be an empty object by default. So this is what our function looks like so far. Now inside here, we're going to have, we need a way to basically initialize everything, the entire slider. So we'll create a function called init. And you know what, this will also take the EL and options as parameters, but we don't need to set default since we know that there's going to be at least something set here. And then inside, underneath it, we'll actually call the function. So I know right now this is a little weird and not the most intuitive, but basically we have here a function called HDS. So I can actually just call HDS here, and this will run this function, which takes two parameters. It takes an element and options. And then inside here, we're basically we're initializing it by running this function here and passing that through. So the reason we're doing it this way is because now I can do something like this. So on our HTML file, we can do something like div ID equals slider. And this here will contain the slider. Everything inside here will be the slider. So now I can do something like this. So what we're doing is we're running this function. We're passing hashtag, whatever you want to call it, ID slider as the element, and we're leaving options as blank. And then we're passing that again here into the init array. And by the way, there is an actual reason I'm formatting it this way, but for now, just roll with me that this is probably one of the nicer, cleaner ways to do it. So now above, actually, so in here in the initialize function, what we want to do is we want to check this EL to see whether it even exists. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if EL equals null, return. Because we need to have an element to contain the slider. If we don't have that, then what are we going to slide? There's no slides. So what we're going to do is we're just going to turn and let's set a warning here. So console dot actually set an error. Please select a container for the slider. Sure. Let's actually go in and open up this HTML file here. That over. And we got the console here. Oh, and let's actually go back to here and let's just test it. Let's actually send it nothing. So we won't send the slider parameter. And then let's go back here and refresh. And you can see we got the why do I keep pressing that? We got this error here. Please select the container for the slider. So good, we know that that's at least working here. So if we don't have an element, we'll just return and cancel it. But if we do have an element, what we need to do is we need to select that element. So what we'll do is we'll say, let's go console.log document.query selector EL. Let's go back here and it should, perfect. So it's got our slider div. It's properly selecting this div. So now we can initialize the slider at any time by just calling HDS with the name. So you could change this ID. If you change your ID of your wrapper here, you can change that to whatever you want. Helps if I'm on the right screen. So if you could change this ID to whatever you want and just, call it here, or you could do a class name or whatever it is that you need to do. It's all set up and working now. So what we need to do here is we need to create, I think it might be better to create this as an object. So you know what, let's go const $ equals object. We'll do it this way, which is probably an even better way to do it. So we'll just copy this in here. So now instead of just calling init, we'll call $.init. And the reason we're doing it this way is just makes the code a little bit cleaner because we can basically chain this object on. It just keeps the code kind of more contained and concise. I personally like it this way. I just find it more legible because now we could even do something like this. And I could do something like slider null. So we'll declare it as null. But then in here, instead of just console logging this out, we can set $.there's.slider equals the selector. So now we can do to echo that out, or you know what I mean. Good, so it's still working. Okay, so we got our so we're selecting our slider. Now let's deal with the options here. So what, you know what, this might be something that's good for a class. So we'll create a class We'll call it, I don't know, slider. Sure. I don't really remember how to do classes in JavaScript. I think you just do it this way, right? Like, I think this is what you do. Let me just verify that this actually runs. Uh, make sure that's not going to pump out an error. Okay, it didn't pump out an error. I'm just going to assume it worked. So in the constructor here, what do we want? So these are going to be our options for the slider. So we're going to want this dot delay. So the delay will be delay in MS to begin the timer. So for instance, you might want to wait 5 seconds before you start engaging the slider. The next thing we'll want is maybe this dot speed. I don't know, 5,000. And this will be time in milliseconds till next slide. We'll want this dot transition. So this will be time in MS for animation speed. So for instance, if we do like a slide in and out, or we do like a fade in and out, this is how long it'll take like that to actually happen. Then we'll want like this dot pagination equals true. This dot navigation equals true. So these are kind of like the default options. These are the default settings. So the idea here is that if we don't actually manually send in any options, like we're not here, right? We're not sending in any options down here. We're just doing the selector. So if we don't send in any options, these will be the default options for the slider. So we'll have a delay of 0. It'll be 5 seconds for between each slide. So it'll take 5 seconds for the next slide to show up. We'll have a transition speed of 600 milliseconds, which will be like the animation speed. We'll have pagination, helps if I spell pagination right. We'll have pagination and navigation both active and true. But now what we want to do is, let's say we want to override that. So we want to override that. So what do we want to do? Pagination. Why can't I spell pagination? False. And navigation, false. We want to set these variables. So these are like user overrides. And we want to have it override this. Well, this is where the constructor comes in. So we're going to want to type in options here. And we're going to do we'll do equals new, oh my, new slider. As soon as you get a new keyboard, you you lose the ability to type. Okay, so what we're doing is we're going to create a new so there we have a new variable here called options, which we're going to populate with this class. So we're going to set that. So now inside here, if I actually console log this out, we should get it should console log our user options here. So let's go verify that, and perfect. So it's correctly saying pagination and navigation. Now what we need to do is we need to make it so that this overrides the default. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to say for const k in options. So what we're going to do is we're going to loop through each options here. Remember, the options is the custom stuff we're sending here. If we don't send anything, this loop won't run. There's nothing to run through, right? So what we're going to do, is we're going to say, so what k will be is k will be the key. So navigation, transition, what is speed, whatever the parameter is, whatever the key is there. So what we're going to say is we're going to say this k equals options. K. So for instance, K is the key. So here the key would be pagination. So what we're saying is we're saying, hey, this dot pagination equals options pagination. So options being this variable here. So that should work and override it. There's one more thing we can do here. Because a bunch of, especially if you're watching this video, you're probably a degenerate. So this is to help people like you. There could be some confusion here when I say time in milliseconds. So for instance, if I say, oh, to update the speed, you just have to say speed and then set whatever milliseconds you want. But some of you might screw it up and do something like this. You might have it in quotes, or you might type in 1000 ms or something like that. So in order to help prevent, instead of just showing like an error and saying like, hey, this is an error and we can't do it, we can actually we can parse it and sanitize that data to force it to be in the format we need. So since delay, speed, and transition they cannot be strings, they need to be integers. Let's actually force them to be integers. So you don't need to do this. This is just a user-friendly thing. Like if you're just building this for yourself to use on your own website, you don't need, you can pretty much skip this entire area and just like hard code these variables directly into here, right? Like you don't even need this class. I'm building this class to make it just a bit more easier for me to use whenever, I can just kind of, drag and drop it into whatever project I want, override any options I want, and it'll just be good to go. Or if you decide at home to just kind of take the script and plug it into your own website, it just makes things a lot easier and more user friendly. But yeah, for something like, especially something like this is something you really don't need to do. But if I were to ever like release this code publicly and turn it into like an actual thing that I expected people to use, things like this go a long way to just making them more user friendly and stuff like that. So now let's go in and make sure we didn't screw up. So it's console log out. Actually, this is console log out the entire object. Console is not, console.log. That's a mistake. I don't think I literally don't know if I've ever made that mistake before. So we can see here, we got our variables here. We can see we got the slider selecting that slider div. We got our options, and we can see it did in fact work. It overrode the default, because remember, navigation and pagination are by default set to true, but we overrode them to false. So great, that's working. So what we need now is we need a way to build out the rest of the HTML. So what do I want to do here? Do I want to build it into this init function? Do I want to create a new kind of builder or constructor function? How do I want to do this? Maybe, So let's create a new function called create. We'll create it, literally create it here. And we're making it an async function because we don't want to actually initialize the slider until we actually have our HTML and all that stuff built in. So one thing that's cool is we actually kind of have this reference here to what our main selector is. So we can create everything housed in there. So what we're going to want is we're going to want to have two separate sections. We're going to have the main section that houses the actual slides, and then we're going to want to have a separate section that houses the vanity stuff, the navigation, like the navigation icons, the pagination icons, stuff like that. So let's figure out what we want to do there. So we could do it two ways. We could actually just do like a constant HTML equals and put it inside these kind of backticks. And then we can literally just be like, just add in whatever the divs we want there. But we're going to go a little bit old school, a little bit rawer, A, mainly just for fun, and B, it is technically more performant. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create two divs. So we'll do constant slides equals document dot create elements, and we'll just make it a div. Nice and easy. And then we'll go we'll basically just replicate that and say constant slides equals create divs. Except for this one, we'll call it vanity. Sure, let's just call it vanity. Screw it. And now what we're going to want to do is we're going to give them class name. So we'll go slides dot class list dot add. We'll call it HDS underscore slides underscore container. That seems relevant. I always like to give you know, my names kind of logical things so that even you know, you can just look at this and be like, oh, this is the div that contains the slides, right? So you just want to be kind of really logical about what you name your stuff. And we'll go vanity dot class dot add HDS slides vanity. Actually, we'll call this slider vanity because it's not for individual slides, it's for the whole slider as a whole. So there, we created two elements. We've given them custom class names. Now what we need to do is we need to add them to our main slider. But we have one more thing. So right, I haven't, you know, I'm getting ahead of myself. What we should actually do first is we should build out the actual slides. So here we have our main slider. So let's actually build out some slides here. So we'll just go div class equals slide. So this is it. This is the only syntax you need. You can put whatever content you want in here. That's all you need. But we're going to, for the sake of this video, I'm actually going to build and design some slides. Just know that everything inside of this slide class is not actually part of this library. And the reason for that is because you can basically design your slides however you want, make them look however you want, put whatever content you want in there. That's not something that the slider script should handle. That's something you should handle because it's so on a per basis. So just know that anything I put inside here is just me building out nice custom slides for this project, but you can make them look however you want. It's independent of what we're actually doing here in the JavaScript. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually, inside each slide, I'm going to put another div called slide content, I guess. And this will house our information. We'll go like, I don't know, we'll put them in H3s. We'll go slider title. We'll add in, this is some paragraph stuff. Okay. You know, let's add in a link. There we go. There's our beautiful, awesome slide. Now what we can do is we can actually just replicate it. So let's build in, oh wait, there is one more thing we're going to want to do. So those background images. So I have these background images here. So let's actually add in these background images. So let's go style. There we go. So now we can just copy and paste this 3 times. And I'm just going to go and update the image. And there we go. Now, so let's actually take a look at what this looks like. And by the way, it's going to look like pretty much nothing. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but don't worry, we'll be fixing that shortly. Oh, look, we actually have a JavaScript error. I don't know how well you can read this because the console's so smaller, but it's a syntax error. Await is only valid, blah, blah, blah. So we actually have a syntax error on line 33, which is right here. Await creates. And it's because, init isn't asynchronous. So let's make this asynchronous. There we go. That'll fix that error. So what we need now is we need some basic CSS here. So let's do, actually, wait, before we do that, let's continue with this JavaScript here. Let's continue this create thing. So now what we need to do is we need to basically, so slides is going to house all of the slides, which is these here. So what we need to do is we need to grab all of the content of slider here and put it inside of slides. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go $$var.vars.slider, which remember will select the main wrapper. .inner HTML. So let's go constant content equals, sure. Let's actually just console log this out because it's been so long since I've done something like this. Let's just make sure I got that that writing right. Okay, yeah, good. So it's printing out the content. So that's fine. That's fine. And then we're going to want to go slides dot inner HTML equals content. Nice and easy. And then we're going to go okay, now we're going to want to erase the content of that. Erase it so that it's empty. And then we're going to want to append these two divs here. So we're going to go, there's that slider dot in append. Isn't it append element? It didn't show up in the append element is not. So what's the actual function name here? Oh, it's just element. Wait, so it's just element.append? Let's try that. Oh, okay, it's just element.append. Okay. So yeah, so it's just a vars.slider.append slides. And let's also do the same for vanity. Okay, so let's actually take a look at the HTML syntax here. So here we have, so here's our wrapper slider. Inside there, we have another div with a class name slides container that contains our 3 slides. And we have a slider vanity, which will house our pagination, stuff like that. All right, cool. So now that we got this done, I think it's time for us to start doing some HTML. So the first thing we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to set a maximum height or width or whatever for this slider. Now for this case, I'm just going to go, actually wait, it's, did we give the, we're going to want to do one more thing. We're going to want to actually give this a class name as well. So we're going to go dot class list dot add HDS slider. There we go. So now we can go HDS slider, and we're just equipping the whole thing. So let's go on heights 100 VH. Trying to think if we need anything else. I don't think we do. Oh, we want to go position relative. And we'll want to give it a background color. Go with black. Generally speaking, when we fade in and out elements, just have the black background. Probably looks a little nicer. And do we need anything else? I don't think so. So the next thing we need is the class. Ooh. Yes, we need to give each individual slide its own custom class name. So now that we've done this, let's do let's add another thing called slides. And then what we'll do is we'll do $.vars.slides equals $.vars.slider dot. I mean, I could do like a first child, but let's do something more accurate in case anyone ever modifies this to do. Let's do something a bit more accurate. So we'll do get elements by class name, and we called it hds.slides.container. And since it's a class name, it's going to be multiple, so we'll do that. Let's check this out. Make sure we didn't make some horrible mistake. Okay, good. So we got that. We got slides. Slides can too. Oh wait, no, yeah, that is what we wanted. That is what we wanted. Okay, good. So yeah, we're now selecting the container there, but we're not done yet. So what we actually need to do is we need to go just I think we just call it children. I think that's it. I think we just do children. That's probably all we need. Yeah, okay, there we go. So children. Oh, it says undefined. Shit. Oh, I spelled children wrong. There we go. See, HTML. See, it's got all 3 in here. Perfect. Okay, so we're selecting all of the children, which is fantastic. Now let's give each of these children their own custom class name. For let I equals 0, well, I is less than the slides dot length I plus plus. HDS slide. Just call it what it is. HDS slide. So there we go. So now let's go to our style sheet and we can actually style each slide. So let's go HDS underscore slide. We'll want to give each of them a height of 100%. Each of them a width of 100%. We'll want to give each of them a Z index of 0. There's a reason for that. I'll get into that in a moment. We'll want to give each of them, we'll want to give each of them an opacity of 0, but I'll do that in a second, because if I give it opacity of 0, we won't be able to actually see it. So I'll leave it as regular opacity just for now. And we'll want to go position absolutes. We'll want to go top 0, left 0. Okay, go take a look. Didn't work. What happened? Slides.class name. Oh, I see what happened here. I wrote class list. I wrote class name instead of class list. Yay, a thing kind of sort of happened. Why does this look so bad? I mean, is the images I used really that big? I think it's just the size of the images. If I switch that, yeah, see if I switch to cover, it works. Okay, cool. So I guess the first thing we'll want to do is, instead of an O, we'll do 0, and we'll do background size cover. Okay, we'll just refresh to make sure. Yep, that's working perfectly. So we can see our first image is here. That's should be this one. Oh. So it's the last one showing up. Wait, why does that say 4? There is no 4. Minor mistake from HTML. I would put a 4 instead of a 3. Dumb. There we go. So that makes more sense now. So I just refreshed, and the last one is the one that's showing because of the Z index thing I did. So now let's go in and change this again. So I got Z index. So let's actually give it an opacity of 0. And now let's do .hds slide active. We go Z index equals 1. We go opacity equals 1. So what we'll do is we'll use this class to select which is the active, which is the active. Let's go $.set active, and we'll do and we'll send it the first slide that we have. Yep, that'll work. So let's create this function now. So we got a function called set active, and it creates it accepts a slide. So we're setting up the first slide. So the first thing we want to do is we want to loop through all of the slides to remove the active, because we want to unset the active slide before we add a new active slide. Otherwise, if we set the slide as active first, and when we remove the previous active slide, we're just going to overwrite the change we just did. So we're going to loop through it all. We're going to say remove. What did I call it? Yeah, slide active. Right? And then only once that's done, we're going to go slide classlist.add HDS slide active. So we're past whatever slide it is that we pass this function, we set it as active. So if we go back to this should set the first one beauty, kind of. So it correctly set this first one to active. Except it's still not quite working. Okay, so for some reason this has HDS slide active. This one just has HDS slide. How come this one doesn't also have HDS slide? Oh, so I don't know if any of you noticed this, but I had let I equal 1 here. It should be 0. I have absolutely, I think I'm just going to assume it was a typo. I absolutely did not mean to have let I equal 1 there. It was just a typo I missed. There we go. So yeah, now our first slide, because this is the image for our first slide, is actually the one that's showing up first. Cool. Okay, so we're actively setting the right slide and all of that. So now what we need to do is, actually, here's a good chance to use our delay, right? So we have a delay. So we can say set timeout. And we can do actually we don't want this yet. What we need first is, okay, so what we need first is we need to create a timer. So we'll do timer null. And this will be a way for us to reference the timer so that we can clear the timer if we need. So for instance, when we if we use the pagination or if we use the navigation, we need to basically stop and set a new timer. So this is a way for us to store that timer so that we can reference it. Let's call the function start. Let's just call it start, man. So in here we'll do and we'll do .vares.options delay. So here we have a timeout where we're running the start function, which is right here, and we're delaying it by however much we have the delay set by, which by default 0. But we could set a custom delay here. So for example, let's do a console log here. And if I go back to here, you'll see it should pretty much print that instantly. How did this get back to 0, 1? So yeah, if you go back to here, you'll see it just prints. Okay, what is going on here? How are these getting set to 1? They should be 0. Oh, it's because I copied and pasted it. Duh. Wait, what? Yeah, there's something really weird going on. Whatever. I think it has to do with my... Ah, okay, I see what's going on here. So just a heads up, my hotkeys I'm using to switch the OBS from the left to right side of the screen is also apparently a shortcut in VS Code, which is why it's sometimes it's getting overwritten. So it's something I'm gonna need to be pay attention to there. Yeah, see, I just did it. I just switched the camera and now it overwrote the 0 to a 1, and I think it's because I had it selected on the cursor there. So it is something I'm gonna need to be aware of. But okay, yeah, so as you can see, you refresh and it says HIU just straight away. But if I switch back here and in our options here, because it should override if I select delay to, I don't know, 3000, and I do this. There we go. See, it waited 3 seconds. It waited 3 seconds before showing it. So it did, in fact, work. Yeah, it's weird. So it's like, got it. So we actually don't want that delete the delay for now. But it's cool that we already have that, working. It just kind of works nice and simple. So here's our start function. So this is the function we're going to use to set the timer. So we're going to go $var.timer equals set interval. And the interval works extremely similar to set timeout in that it takes a function and a time in milliseconds. So the time in milliseconds is going to be var.options.speed. And that's our speed. So that's by default, it's 5,000. So 5,000 milliseconds. And we're going to go, we're going to run a function called next every whatever this is, which in our case is 5,000. So let's create that next function. So this function is going to run every 5,000 milliseconds, but we could, of course, update that to, 100 milliseconds or 1,000 milliseconds or 10 seconds or whatever the case is there. So what we need to do here is we need to figure out where we are. We need to figure out what the active slide is, and we need to figure out whether there's another slide after it. So first, let's go. Let's find out what the current active slide is. So const active equals actually, what is the best way to do it? I'm thinking like we can either grab the vars.slides, loop through it, find the current active one, and compare the index value. That's one way to do it. We could also just do a vars.slider get elements by class name HDS slide active. Yeah, let's do it this way. I kind of like this way. I don't actually know whether this is technically the best one. It's probably not technically the most performant, but it's a fun way to do it. So here we have what the current active slide is. Now what we need to do is we need to check to see whether we can go to the next slide, whether there's a next slide in the DOM tree. Oops, didn't mean to go to mobile. So let me just select this. So like, for instance, if we're on this one, right, we need to know like, oh, let's activate the next slide in the list, which in our case is this one. So that's okay. Now let's imagine that this is the active slide. We need to go to the next one. Great. Now let's imagine this is the next slide. We need to go to the next one. Well, shit, there is no next one. So what we need to detect when there is no longer a next one, when we're at the end of the line, so that we can loop all the way back to the first one. So the way we're going to do that is we're just going to go if active dot next element equals null. Set active. So if we're at the end of the line, we're just going to set the first one to be active again. Else, active.next element. This feels too easy to be true. Let's test it out though. Like, I feel like this is too easy. Like, this can't work. So I think it's every 5 seconds it should switch. Uncaught. Okay, there we go. Cannot read undefined class list 62. Let's go take a look at where 62 is. So, huh? Okay, so what I think it is I think this active.next element. So let's go take a look. So I guess let's go here and let's first go on console.log active. Let's make sure it's actually finding something. And let's do console.log active.next. Maybe it's next sibling. Maybe I don't want next element. I want sibling. Let's check this out. I think I might want next sibling. Well, just so you know, all I did was console log it out. So here we go. So active, it's got active, right? Sibling is doing that. So let's do next. Let's do next element sibling. I don't remember what it's called. We can always just Google it. You know what I mean? Like, don't be afraid to Google. Like, if you take one lesson home from this, don't be afraid to Google. So yeah, next element. So that seems to have worked. So active.next element sibling is the thing. So yeah, sibling was definitely we don't want next element. We want the next element sibling because we need to make sure the siblings, that way it's still part of the same hierarchy and we're not doing any jumping. Let's refresh that. And I'm pretty confident this will work, which is kind of cool. Yeah, 5 seconds later it switched. 3, 2, 1. Aha! Now here's the thing. Will it loop back to the first one? Will it loop back? Success. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. So right here, we have a very basic slider working. We don't have any navigation, we don't have any pagination, and it doesn't particularly look good, but we have it. So let's go in and make this look a little bit nicer. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to separate our style sheet into 2 versions. So first I'm just going to do some basic like styles. Like these styles aren't styles that are like part of HD styles. It's just like generic styles that your website probably has. It's just things to, you know, make it a little bit nicer and easier. So this above here, like you wouldn't need to include this with your files. Whatever site you're attaching this to would likely have its own stylings that'll work better for you. And then here we'll go the actual HD slide styles. Yay! There we go. That already looks a little bit better. Already looks a little bit better. So now over here in our not the actual slides thing, what do we have? Our we have it called slider content. Actually, I think we just called it slide, right? So slide will go display grid, and we'll go text lines center, and we'll go place items center, place items cal, and then we'll go dot slide content. We'll go max width 800 pixels, and we'll go color white, and that alone should make a big difference. Already looks so much better, right? Let's do h3 font size, I don't know, 22 pixels. Actually, let's go bigger. Let's go 33 pixels. Let's do color aquamarine. This is why the hell not. I think I made a class name called button for the link. So let's do text decoration none. Let's do color white. Let's give it a border. Give it a chunky border, 3 pixels, solid aquamarine. Let's give it some basic padding. Let's do I don't know, 0.4 em, 1 em. Let's go take a look at this. There we go. So we got a, looks a little bit nicer now. Looks a little bit more like actual slides, which is kind of cool. I like it. I think it looks a lot better already. You know what else we can do? Let's add a cool overlay. So just remember that everything that you see me do right now, this isn't part of like the JavaScript. It's irrelevant. This is just me designing the slides to look a little nicer. But it's here's something that might be cool. So let's do that, that, and that. Let's go div class equals overlay. So we're creating an overlay div, and then we'll go absolutes z index -1. Go top 0, left 0, width 100%, heights 100%, and we'll go you know what? Let's do a CSS gradient. Let's just create a random gradient here. Let's do sure, why not? So we're just going to steal this gradient from this generator, cssgradient.io. We're going to plug that into our overlay. And what this is going to do right here, right now, is this is actually going to cover up the back. So we need to give it some opacity. We can do the opacity here with the RGBA, but what am I? Not lazy. Let's take a look. So there we go. Now we have this kind of cool, you know, bluish, purplish filter. And it just looks a little bit nicer and makes it easier to see and read the text. Pretty cool. I'm sorry, I'm just like watching it go. It looks actually pretty nice. All things considered, that I just chose random images and didn't spend too much time designing this. But yeah, pretty cool. So now we still need to animate it though, because that's the thing that makes it go from like, yeah, you're switching divs around, whoop-de-doo, to be like, oh, this looks really nice. So now we're back into, we're away from the generic, just your website styles and how you specifically want to make your slides look. And we're back into the actual like HD slides container of it. And here's the secret sauce. So we've already got opacity 0, opacity 1. Now what we want to do is we want to animate this. So you can actually build in your own like timing function. We're just going to use like an ease in and out just for the simplicity. Now transition. So if you want it to be, we'd actually just say transition opacity, since that's the only thing we're actually transitioning. But we're just going to use transition all. We're going to do like an ease in out, and we're going to go, I don't know, 600 milliseconds. Let's take a look at that. And I broke something somehow. Not sure. I honestly don't know how this could have. Oh, what? Okay. Ah, the camera. When I switched the camera over, it once again added, instead of 0.1, it changed it to 1.4. I really got to remember to pay attention to that. Let's go, little buddy. There we go. So now we got a nice kind of fade in and out effect. But we're not done yet, because if you recall, we actually wanted the transition speed to be updatable. So for instance, let's set it to 1,000. Let's set it to something larger, like 3,000. Make it really obvious. Now, right now, it's not actually using this. So what we need to do is we need to make it so that this is something that can be used. So what we want to do here is probably in our create function, we want to grab our slider, and we're going to add a CSS variable. I think it's set property. I might have to Google this. What should we call it? Slide transition speed. We'll make it I don't know if that's right. It says no. Apparently I've looked it up before. So what's it called here? Oh, .style.set property. Okay. .style.set property. That actually makes a lot of sense. There you go. So that works. So when I say it works, I mean it's setting the property. So we have a CSS variable here called slide transition speed. Let's actually set it up so that it uses this. So in I guess in here we'll create a variable called slider, and we'll call it 600 ms, although it doesn't really matter because it's just going to get overwritten. But then here, instead of 600 ms, we're going to use that variable. There we go. So now whatever we set here should be the transition speed. Let's go take a look and see if that works. So the transition should be like a lot slower and slower now. Yeah, see how much slower that was? Like, yeah, nice and slow. Now let's go and have fun with some different animation styles, just to show you how easy you can kind of change this. We can do let's do actually let's do left. Well, whatever. Left minus 100%. And then here we'll just go left 0. And because we're doing transition all, it should animate that. So let's see if that actually works. There we go. See that? It's pretty cool, right? So see how easy, like you could switch this over to do top instead. You know, you could switch it over to top, and you know what? Let's actually make this faster. Instead of being let's make it 300 milliseconds. You know, let's test it out. Let's test it out. So this should be pretty cool. Okay, that's way too fast. I'm gonna bump that up to like 1,000. Bumping that up to 1,000. There we go. So that's pretty cool, right? That's pretty cool. I don't know why I keep looking over here as if that's where the camera is, but that's just, this is cool. This is cool. That's a pretty dope effect. I mean, by the way, I wouldn't really use it myself. I would actually, you know, for myself, I would just go for a straight up opacity because I'm just a basic simpleton. But just to show you how easily you could, like, you know, change it, add your own animations. You can, instead of easing out, you could use your own, like, you know, bicubic, whatever timing function, do whatever you want to change it. For the slide itself, right? For the slide itself, if you don't want like a title pair, like make the slide whatever you want. You don't need to design your actual slide content this way. You know, right now we're using a full screen size slide, right? But in here what did I name? I think I just named it slider, right? But here I could just go like slider height, I don't know, 500 pixels. Like, it doesn't really matter. And now it's only 500 pixels high. Like, you can design it however you like. It doesn't really matter. It's all good. So that's the main part. I mean, we have a slider, we have transitions, we're able to update the transition speed, we're able to create a delay, we're able to, you know, change the animation speed and how long the interval is between each slide. Now let's add in pagination and the navigation. Let's actually do navigation first. So let's edit this and this, remove that. Because remember, the default is true. Default is true. So now we have navigation set is true. And we're going to need to actually create that. So we're going to create that here under vanity. Here we go, vanity. So we're going to go if and only if variables.options.navigation equals true. So I know I did it this way before. I'm just gonna do it the cheating way this time because I don't know how this video is getting long now, and it's like this is the last hurrah. So let's just do it this way. So let's do const nav equals that, and we'll call it div class equals so that'll be like our wrapper, and then we'll go div class equals HDS rev. Next, and we'll do okay. Now we need to add that, so we'll go vanity.insert JSON HTML. After begin. Actually, we should only have that inside of here. Just to go back to here to make sure it worked. So here's our vanity div. And yep, HDS navigation is there. and it has our next and previous. So let's actually do the CSS now to style that. So inside here, we're going to go, oops, we're going to go position absolutes, top 0, left 0, width 100%. You guys all know the idea. So there we go. So now it should be covering the whole thing. And we're actually going to want this. I just thought of a potential issue. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And then we're going to want some HDS navigation. What did I call it? Yes, HDS navigation. You know what, I don't even think I really need to do anything here. I might keep that. Let's just keep that for now. HDS rev. We'll go position absolutes. We'll go left, I don't know, 2 REM. Sure, why not? We'll go HDS next. You know what? Let's actually do one more update here. So we got HDS prev, HDS nest. Let's actually add an additional class name, HDA/nav. We go top help 50% minus, I don't know, 2 REM. Okay. Let's make it actually let's do 4 REM, width 4 REM. Let's do like a display flex. Border. Let's take a look at this. So there we go. So here we have our next and previous navigation items. They just look really terrible. But we could do something like justify, center, align. There we go. So we can do something like that, add that into the HDS nav item. There we go. We can also change the font size to, I don't know, 22 pixels or something larger. Actually, let's do like 32. We can make it so that the cursor changes. Cool. Yep, that works. So already you can see that something I was worried we were going to run into, we've now run into, which is basically because this is a giant div on top of the other divs, I can no longer select it. Like I can't like this click me button is no longer clickable because it's one big div on top of it. So maybe what I need to do is actually, instead of having inside of like an HDS navigation, maybe what I need to do is just bring it out of there. Get rid of the HDS navigation. And now that's clickable. And that's still not clickable. Oh, right, because of the slider vanity. Maybe I don't even need the slider vanity. Maybe I don't. Yeah, actually, come to think about it, I don't actually need the slider vanity. Yeah, let's just get rid of it. There's no need. There's no reason to have it. We can get rid of it. We don't need no slider. We don't need no slider vanity. We actually don't even need this. Get rid of you. get rid of you. Instead of vanity, we can actually do switch this to before end. Okay, well that broke a lot of stuff. What am I missing here? Oh, wait, what? So just so you can see, what I did here is I added it to the container when I wanted it out. I wanted it here. This is where I wanted it to be. So let's go back and see why. I'm honestly not sure why. That insert adjacent HTML before end. So it should. Oh wait, it did. So it did. Oh, it did work. My bad. I don't know. I must have not have refreshed the page, but it did work. I mean, it worked as far as I could add it where I wanted it to add. Yeah, so now I need to get rid of that HDS navigation because we don't need that no more. We're just gonna have the divs just right there. Okay, so that's working. Now, why is this not working? So we got oh, wait, so wait. What is going on here? So my instinct was right. Let's go console log that out. So it should be adding it after the container, not inside the container. Why is it adding it after? Oh, I think I know why. I think I just figured out why. I was still trying to add a vanity. I still had add the append vanity here. So we look at this here, we still have that. Okay, so I see. So what I'm doing here is my order of operations is wrong. I need to move this farther down because I was actually only adding it down here. See, I only actually added the slides there. So what I need to probably do is set it like way down here, and that'll probably be a lot better. I mean, it kind of worked. Oh, because I need the Z index. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the HDS nav Z index. I'm probably going to want it to 2 because we're going to want it on the top. And there we go. We got it working. So now the click me is actually clickable. This text is actually selectable. And the next and previous is also selectable. And by the way, for these, I just did these like quick arrows just as like, let's just get something there that represents it. You would obviously want to use some kind of icon or a freaking emoji, an actual arrow, like whatever. You know, I just did this quickly just to get the point across there. Okay, so what's next? What do we need next? So we got the, I mean, we got the displaying, we got it displaying right, at least. You know, you might want to do something like, you know, like order radius some 50% or something like that to make them like, you know, rounded circles, right? You might want to add in, you know, an opacity or a mouse over effect or anything like that. That's kind of whatever. That's not really the point of this video. It's good enough for now. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Actually, one thing I will do is I will get rid of the, I don't like the, I like the dash sign there. I think it just looks better like this. Yeah, I just think this just looks better. So now what we need to do is we need to actually make these interactable so that you can go, next, or previous. So what we have here, so we have our create function. Great. So we need to set an event listener now, excuse me, to listen to when we actually click one of these items. So let's do let's just initialize a function called navigation. And here we'll do and by the way, just because we're going to need it, let's create a function here called prev, which will also do something. So in here, we're going to want to add an event listener for the left and right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go const prev equals get elements by class name, HDS prev, I think I just called it. We'll do the same for next. There we go. So we got prev next, and now we'll do an event listener. So we'll go prev.add events listener. Click. We'll do .prev. Yeah. We'll do the same for next. So next should kind of work right out of the gate. Next, for prev, we're going to have to do something different. Let's see if this works. Cool. Yeah, it's just instantly transitioning. The problem is that we remember we're on a 5-second. It's going to automatically change every 5 seconds. So if I click next a second before that 5 seconds shows up, it's going to switch twice really fast. So just let me show you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how it automatically switched anyways? It's because we're not stopping the timer. So what we need to do here is we need to stop that timer and then create it anew. So where did I create that timer before? Oh, so it's just start. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm actually going to want to clear this interval and then start it anew. So we can actually do this in 2 places. We could do it inside the next and previous, or we could just do it. No, let's just actually do it here because it doesn't actually matter because we're just going to start it. Actually, never mind. Yeah, we can just start it and stop it again. Let's do this. Clear interval. So we're clearing it. And then at the end, we're basically saying, where's that start function again? I just want to make sure there's nothing crazy there. Actually, I can just do start. So this should fix that issue. So let's check it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Beauty, it worked. Okay, good. So now we need to do the previous. So what we did here is we found out what the active slide is, which is exactly what we need. So we can actually just copy this. We just need to do it in reverse. So here we're finding out what the, is there such thing as .previous? Well, but I'm just doing a console log test because I want to check the function here. Okay, good. So el dot, is there a previous? There is. There's a previous element sibling. Fantastic. So yeah, I just need to change next element sibling to previous element sibling. And the difference is here, instead of going to the first one, we want to go to the last one. So I'm going to go .slides .length -1, remember, because like, you know, array base 0. So this should work. Oh no, it didn't quite work. Oh god. So look, I did it here again where it went to 2 instead of 1. Okay, so next, great, next, great, next, great, next, great, back. No, that's not the right order, is it? So you know what, just for simplicity, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to edit the slider titles just to make it easier for us to know, to make sure that we got the order right. So slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, 1, 2, 3, fantastic. If I go back, it should go to 2, but it's breaking. If I'm at 1, it should go to 3. That went to 3, but then it's breaking. So why is that breaking? What did I screw up here? So I'm saying if active.previous element. Oh, here it is. I didn't change it over here. So this should work now. I am the god of sliders. All right. When you think of sliders, you think of me. And you know what? Just for you degenerates that like animations, let's do by the way, I know that like a transform would probably be more performant, but you get the idea. Is this not amazing? Oh, this is so much fun. This is just so much fun having, you know, going around with this. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, so that's all working. Working really well, actually. I'm actually very, I'm pretty happy with it. Let's make sure. Let's get rid of this. And let's actually get rid of the pagination too, because we want to use pagination now. We want to use pagination. I guess let's just actually see how it works with it. That's with the default fast transition speed. Cool. So we want to actually do pagination now. So we're going to do something somewhat similar here. And that here I was like, if navigation is true, we're going to do something similar, except instead of navigation, we're going to do pagination. If errors.options pagination equals true. And we're actually going to put this in its own function because it's not as easy or clean as just doing this. And to be fair, this here should actually, you know what, actually, let's actually put that in there. So I'm gonna move that from there to, where's the navigation? To here. I'm just gonna put it in there just for like a simplicity. So let's do pagination function, yay. Okay, so what do we need to do here? So I guess the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out how many slides we have. So I mean, it should just be console.log. Oops. It was just slides, right? I'm just console logging this out. Okay, I'm just making sure that is in fact the right variable I had it named. So we're going to figure out how many slides we have. Actually, we don't need to do. We can actually just do a for loop. So we're going to go let HTML. We'll just like blank for now. I'm going to go for let I equals 0 while I is less than var.styles. Actually, I didn't want dot length. I plus plus. We're going to go HTML plus equals and actually we are going to want to keep this in its own class. And then just like how we added it here, we're going to want to add it here as well. Except we're going to call it HTML. And then we're going to need to add some CSS. So the first thing, let's just actually add some CSS for the pagination item. We'll make it with, I don't know, 22 pixels. Sure, why not? Height, 22 pixels. We'll go border radius 50%, so it's a circle. And we'll do by default, I don't know, background. Sure, why not? We're also going to want like an active state, which we'll just do background color. Sure, why not white? Doesn't really matter. We'll change the colors later. And by the way, so the active state isn't going to work. This actually isn't going to work really well at all. But I just wanted to make sure it's actually working here. So far, it seems it is. Let's go in and check out this. So we've got pagination here. So let's do position absolutes. We'll do bottom. Oops. Bottom, I think I had that as 4 rem. That index 2. Display flex. Flex the line center. Width 100%. Actually, no, we don't want the width 100%. I can never remember what it is. Maybe I do want the width 100%. Right, because now I can do the justify. Yeah, see, I can do that now. Let's go back to here. And let's do, what's it called? HDS pagination. Let's copy these styles over. And let's create a slight margin here. I said slight margin. Okay, that's too much. So I'm just going to reduce that margin by a significant amount there. That's better. Let's make it so that the cursor is a pointer. And actually, let's set the cursor here to default. It's because we don't want the active to actually show. So now what we need to do is we need to do 2 things here. We need to do, first of all, we need to make it so that the active slide corresponds with the active pagination item. The second thing we need to do is make it so that you can actually click on one of these to go directly to that slide. So how are we going to do this? How are we? So I guess the set active is what we're going to need. Yeah, so we're going to need the set active class here. I knew there was a benefit of having a separate set active function here. So let's do if there's.options.pagination equals true, because we only want to run this whether we need, if we need to. So I guess what we need to do here is we need to figure out the index value. Ooh, I have an idea. So up here in our variables, we can go pagination. By default, it'll be null. It'll be null by default. But then down here under our pagination, we'll actually set it. So we'll go dot pagination equals so I'm just going to refresh this page and just print that out. Oh, wait, I'm going to need to echo it out. Let's take a look at that. We got pagination, which contains all three items. Fantastic. Okay, cool. So that's just a little shortcut there, something to make it a little bit easier for us. So in our active class, so we got if pagination is true, what we need to do is we need to figure out which of our slides, like which number our slide is, like what our index value of our slide is. So there's a couple ways we can do this. I think an easier and guaranteed compatible way will be to actually just loop through the slide. Normally I would say it's not the most performant way to do that, but considering we're talking about slides here, you should really, as far as I'm concerned, you should never have more than 3 slides, absolute max of 5. If you have more than 5 slides, you're kind of screwing things up from a design perspective. So I mean, looping through 5 items, really not a big deal. So let's do so let's loop through for let I equals 0, while I is less than vars dot slides dot length I plus plus. What we'll do is we'll check to see whether the slide is active or not, and we'll capture the I value. So we'll say if slides I dot class list contains HDS slide active, and we're going to break. And we're going to say let's index equal 0. And we're going to say index equals I. So there we go. So now we know. I should probably put this inside here. So now we know what the index is, whether it's the first, second, third, nth slide that's active. And what we could do now is we can say dot vars dot pagination index, right? That's why we put in the variable dot class list dot add. I'm assuming I just gave it. Well, actually, I actually screwed it up there anyways. Boom. Except just like we did it here, we also need to loop through the paginations to deactivate the previous pagination. So that way we don't have more than one active at a time. So this should accurately do it, and it didn't, it broke. I broke it. Line 80. Pagination.length is empty. Why is it empty? So I think we have an order of operations problem here. I think this is running before this is running. So let's go up here to where our create function is. And we can see that it is in fact correct. So we don't want that to run yet. We want it to run down here. And success. Big success. You can see that the white one's active. If I do that, second one's active. Here we go. So we got the pagination working as far as it's actively showing us what the active one is. Now we need to make it interactable so that you can click on it to switch it as well. Well, this is actually going surprisingly well. I know it's been a long video. Thank you so much if you're watching the whole way through. impressive, and I hope you're learning a lot from this. And if you made it this far, I hope that you agree that what you see on screen right now, pretty cool, especially considering that we're currently running at 100 and basically like 130 lines of code. Like this is uncompressed. This isn't like, you know, like you could like if you were doing this for yourself, you could just eliminate all of this, right? Like I'm kind of building it in a way so that you know, it's easily hookable and expandable, that kind of thing. You don't even need to do that. You could probably easily build this entire thing in less than 100 lines of code without issue. And you know, even the styles here, like, you know, if you don't want pagination or navigation, like you could just delete everything from here down and save yourself all the CSS that you don't need to include on your site. But that's only if you were like really caring about making it the fastest, smallest way possible. So what do we need to do to make these pagination things active? I guess we need to make each one an event. Let's go for let's I equals 0, I is less than dot length, I plus plus, I dot add event listener, click, and then I think we can just do set active. No, it can't be this easy. It can't be this easy. It's not this easy. Okay, I think the reason is that this isn't this. Like if I do, like, let's echo this to see what happens here. Oh. Oh, wait, duh, because it's this pagination instead of so we need to do the index thing again. We need to do our index thing again. So where did I have that index before? It was here. So we basically need to do that exact same thing here. Except instead of slides, it needs to be and instead of checking for the class list, we can just go this. And then instead of that, we do I'm actually pretty confident this will work. By the way, I mean, I don't have it in, but you could do the same thing with keyboard navigation. You could add in keyboard navigation, which is just look for an event lister on the left and right arrows on the keyboard or whatever. And you could basically just run it through the same thing here. Just set active. And where you could actually just, it would be even easier. Keyboard right, $sign.next. Keyboard left, $sign.prev. It would be that easy. And that's the benefit of coding it this way, that it's just much easier to expand and add more functionality in if you wanted to, because we kind of had these functions pre-made and built for us. But yeah, this is working and looking pretty great. I'm just going to make some minor changes here, and I think we're done. I think I'm going to package this up, upload the video, put it on GitHub, and we'll go from there. So I guess one thing I want to do is I want to maybe make this a little bit smaller. So instead of 4 REM, let's make it like 3 REM. So just so you can see what I'm doing. I'll probably finesse this a bit more like later. This is just ballpark. Like 22 pixels for the pagination is just too big. Let's make it like, I don't know, 16 or something. See how that looks. 16 is a little bit better. Same having it like 2 up there. Let's go like 1.5. See how this looks. There we go. That just looks a bit better now. Oh, that just looks so cool, man. I love that. Oh, another thing that we'll want to do is we'll want to make is that you can't click on the current one. So where did I have the event listener? Here we go. So we'll say if this dot class list dot contains HDS There we go. So we're basically just saying like, you know, so if I click this, it's not like reloading the slide every time, and it should continue to the next slide automatically. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. All right, is there anything else we need? I guess we could test it and just play around with some of the parameters to make sure that it's working and not breaking anything. So for instance, if we go back here, you know, something that you see common with a lot of other sliders, they'll do something like this. Let's do navigation false. Let's just make sure that that removes. Yep, so now that I set navigation to false, the navigation's gone. If I set pagination to false, that should remove pagination. If I set speed to 1000, it should set it to 1000. If I set transition to 300, it should set that to. And then let's do a delay as well of 5 seconds. So just so you already got it up. So you can see that we have we're disabling navigation and pagination. We're setting the speed, which is how long it takes to you switch over to the next slider to 1000. We're setting the animation to only 300, which should be pretty fast. And we're making so that we actually don't actually initialize and start the slider timer until 5 seconds in. Let's see how it all works in practice. So good, we got no navigation, we got no pagination. 5 seconds, it should start switching over every second. Beauty. Success. Okay, so I'm going to go through this. I'm going to package it up all nice and pretty. I'm going to put it up on GitHub for you. And hopefully you've learned a lot about this. You know, you can do a lot of really cool things with this. You can add columns and icons, or, you know, like I said, don't get too fixated on what the actual content of the slide is, because that's something that, I mean, that's something that should be handled by you, the developer. That's not something that should be handled by, you know, the script. But as you can see, it's very lightweight. It's very easy to customize with CSS. It's got the main options in. I mean, I don't have things like pause on hover or destruct or anything like that. But as you can see, that's the kind of stuff you could pretty easily build in. Even things like keyboard navigation or swipe gestures, you could very easily build it in. And the truth is, you know, I probably will build that in before I put it on GitHub. But for now, I think we've done more than enough. We got a full-fledged vanilla JavaScript slider, and I'm very happy with it. So until next time, have a good one.